Hello everyone, my name is Mateo-Tube. Welcome back to another episode of Run8. Today we are going to be checking out the Arvin and Oak Creek branch line. This is a short line railroad that does exist in real life. I believe it's serviced by the San Joaquin Valley Railroad, also known as SJVR, which is featured in Run8. As I mentioned, it is a real rail line. Unfortunately, a lot of what used to run doesn't run anymore, but I will get into that later in this video. Also, I am using the industry config? I am using the industry config from the depot. So in the event that you do not have industries along this route, go to the depot's website, go to downloads, install the depot plus config files, download this. When you've downloaded it, go to where you have Run8 installed. Go to where you have Run8 installed, find your V3 folder, go to content, go to V3 routes, go to regions, go to Southern California, and replace the config.ind. Make sure that you back up the original file in case something happens. This is a route that does exist in real life. Some of the buildings are almost exact. A lot of the buildings that are along this route do not exist anymore. However, this line is still a line that is served. So this first industry that we have here is UOC, and the business name is Unico Chemicals. I believe that this is a real business that exists in real life. Unico Chemicals, this requires 8 empty tankers and 8 empty hoppers along here. The next industry that we have here is BLT. This is Bolt House Farms. It requires, what does it require? It requires 10 empty refrigerator cars. And as you can see, this industry does exist in real life and still gets serviced. And the next industry we have here is LIM, and that stands for Lime Mineral Co. This industry requires 12 loaded 2-bay covered hoppers. That's like a whole whatever. In real life, I have no idea if this industry still gets served. As you can see, they do still have a track here. But I'm not sure if SJVR still services it. They might, but I'm not entirely sure. And of course, right here we have a railroad crossing as well as a highway. In real life, these do exist. We have the railroad crossing here and the highway there, and LIM, or Lime Mineral Co., is right there. Now, if we continue down the line, it is only 20 miles an hour through here, so while it's a very short route, it can feel very, very long. Our next industry here is HRF. I don't believe that this exists anymore. I believe that this industry, HRF, may have existed. I found along the route this track right here, and it goes up here, but it ends. So whether or not this track in real life used to be something that's this, I'm not entirely sure. HRF stands for Hermosa Farms and requires 10 empty refrigerator cars. If you're playing realistically, I believe you can put 3 here and 3 here. However, this can take up to 10. Continuing down the line, we have a railroad crossing right there, which you can see also exists in real life. If we continue down the line, our next industry, I believe, is KNO. Now, if you don't have the the Arvin Oak Creek branch, KNO will be at the entrance of this branch. KNO is an industry that still gets serviced in real life, and here is the game, and here's what it looks like in real life. So here in the game, KNO is Kern Oil Company. Now, I believe that Kern Oil Company is a real company in real life. This industry will take, this industry will take 12 loaded tankers and 12 loaded acid tankers, and I've counted that in this little yard here, on these 4 tracks, you can store approximately 54 tankers along these 2 tracks here. This industry does still get serviced in real life, and we can see that they do in fact use that for tanker storage. So there you go. Continuing down the line here, we have GRE. GRE stands for Grimway Enterprises, and it requires 8 empty refrigerator cars. Now, whether or not this industry still gets serviced in real life, I have no idea. However, if we look here, there is a track that goes up to the industry, and it looks to be in pretty good condition. So whether or not they do still service this industry or not, I really don't know. Maybe we could see something by going into Street View. Let's just see here. As you can see, no. Well, there's nothing here. Maybe they park things here. I'm not really too sure, but you can see there still is a track, and there's K&O way in the distance. All right, so moving along the line from GRE, we come up to SXP. SXP stands for Southern California Agri Plastics. And this industry requires 2 empty gondolas as well as 5 loaded plastic pellet hoppers. Now, whether or not this industry still gets served by the railroad, I'm not entirely sure. Looking on Google Earth, it doesn't look like the industry gets served anymore. As you can see, there is no track that exists. There is a siding here. Is there a siding in-game? Yes, there is a siding also in-game. However, I don't believe that this industry gets serviced by the railroad anymore. Anyhow, moving on. We continue down the line at 20 miles an hour. We have a curve that's just up here, and this leads to AGG. AGG standing for Arvin Grape Growers Association, and AGG requires 3 empty boxcars at this industry. Now, whether or not this industry still gets served, I'm not entirely sure. I do notice that on Google Earth, there is a railroad crossing just after AGG. In-game, there's actually no railroad crossing here, and the siding here actually ends. However, if we look at Google Earth, the siding actually continues, splits into 2, and I think comes to an end right here. So whether or not there was something here that's not there anymore, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe AGG used to be right here. They took the industry away and built this road in. Not entirely sure. Anyhow, continuing on from AGG, we come up to a railroad crossing, which is just up here. And we can notice that it is, in fact, just after a siding here. And we come up to Pod. And POD stands for Potato Depot, and POD requires 9 empty refrigerator cars along this siding. Now, whether or not this industry still gets serviced in real life, I have no idea. If you notice, there are actually 4 tracks here. 1, 2, 3, 4. In-game, there's actually only 3. This industry probably doesn't get serviced anymore. If we look at this track here on the far left, when the industry did get serviced, it was probably right here. And if we get down to Street View, maybe we can see something extra here. As you can see, that track barely exists anymore. That 4th track that's right there barely exists. Oh, yes, look at that. Now, whether or not these boxcars have been here for a really long time, they certainly do look old, don't they? So these boxcars probably haven't moved in a really long time. But whether or not the industry gets serviced or not, we have boxcars, so maybe it gets serviced. Although, if we do look at this, there aren't any boxcars there. So whether or not, those boxcars were there forever and maybe they moved them and scrapped them, or maybe they just parked them there and they never moved them, I don't know which picture's newer. However, this industry's here and may or may not get serviced. Now, moving on, we go to KBP, and KBP stands for Kimber Pallets. And Kimber Pallets requires 4 empty boxcars. Now, we already looked at this track a little bit, but as we can see, there's 5 tracks here. There's 4 tracks here now. There may have been a 5th one. When this industry did get serviced, it probably was on this track. Now, whether or not they still use this one to service it, I really have no idea. But you can see we got a siding here, and in-game, we also have this siding and another industry called KIL right away. Now, KIL is Kirschman Enterprises Lamont. Now, Kirschman Enterprises Lamont requires 7 empty refrigerator cars right here. Now, if we look at this industry here, this right here is KBP. Kirschman Enterprises is about right here. I don't believe it gets serviced by the railroad anymore. If we look here, there was a freight track right here, and it doesn't look like the track exists anymore. So whatever industry was right here, I'm going to imagine probably this one, doesn't get serviced by the railroad anymore. Now, moving on from KIL, we come up to KRL. KRL is Kern Ridge Growers Lamont. And Kern Ridge Growers Lamont, or KRL, requires 9 empty refrigerator cars. Now, I believe if you're playing realistically, 2 to 3 refrigerator cars on one platform, 2 to 3 on the other platform. But this siding in total, both of them, according to the depot, can take approximately 9, I believe. If we look on Google Earth, you can notice that the tracks for this industry do still exist. So whether or not the industry actually gets serviced in real life, I'm not entirely sure. However, the tracks do exist. And we can see here, well, here they look like they might have been taken out. I'm not entirely sure, though. Yeah, you can see the tracks right there. Looks like it goes here. Yeah, so 2 of these tracks might be left. I'm not entirely sure. Can't see that well. Yeah, you can see that there's 2 buffers there. So this industry here may or may not get serviced anymore. I'm really not sure. And the next industry we have after KRL is GUL, and that stands for Grimway Farms Lamont. Grimway Farms Lamont requires 5 empty refrigerator cars on this platform. Now, if we look at Google Earth, it doesn't look like the track exists anymore. As you can see, there's not even a switch. You can see where the tracks probably did exist, but look, they're not even connected anymore, unfortunately. And the next industry that we have here just after GUL is IIF, and that stands for I&I Farms. Now, IIF requires, what does it require? It requires 14 empty refrigerator cars, or at least that's how many it can take on both sidings. Looking on Google Earth, the industry may still be serviced by the railroad. As you can see, the tracks still exist. This middle track here looks like it might be in a little bit of decay. However, this industry may still be serviced. Let's see in Street View if there's anything here. No, but you can see that there is still a track there. It looks like it's pretty well maintained. This second track doesn't look like it's maintained at all. However, there is a platform there, so the industry might still get serviced. I'm really not sure. And the next industry down the line is GVP. Now, GVP is Green Valley Packers LLC. And GVP requires 6 empty refrigerator cars on this siding. And if we look on Google Earth here, you can see that the tracks for this industry still exists. Although they look a little bit weird. Right there, they look like they probably don't exist anymore. And as you can see, they actually still continue to right here. But you can see that this rail track here, look at how overgrown it is. There's like bushes and everything on it. The tracks do still exist. However, I don't believe that the industry still gets serviced by the railroad. We could go into Street View and see if there's anything here. You can see the tracks way in the distance. That track's like covered in dirt and everything like that. It doesn't look like this still gets serviced at all. All right, continuing on from GVP, we have a siding here. We have like looks like a truck facility here. Continuing on, we have a big siding here. I believe there might be something here in real life. Let me just take a look here. So that right there is GVP. If I look on Google Earth, hold on. Actually, you know what? Let me just check out what the next industry is. Yes. Okay. I think that in real life there was an industry here. It doesn't look like it was featured in the game. If we go here, here's GVP. If I continue down the line, there's the siding right there. Unless maybe I'm confusing myself. No, this is the industry we were just at. The siding is here. There's another siding. And then if we go over here, there's an industry, or looks like there was an industry right here. And it doesn't look like it's featured into the game, as this is the first set of buildings since GVP, and this is where that industry that we can see right here should have been. Now, if you can see, there is actually like a fence surrounding the property, and if you look here, there is like a part of a fence surrounding this. So this building right here might have actually been this, and it may have been serviced by the industry or by the railroad at one point. Not anymore, though. Now, the next industry is HCW. HCW is an industry that is actually serviced in real life. So, the industry is called Heck Cellars Winery. It requires 18 loaded boxcars and 14 loaded tankers. I believe that in real life, this is in fact a winery in real life. I'm not sure if it's called Hex Sellers Winery. This industry is still serviced by SJVR Railroad. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like the track is in the world's best condition, but you can see that there is a track here that goes to here. And you can also see that there's another track right here that seems to be in pretty good condition. Now, how I know that this industry still gets serviced by SJVR, or at least did at the time that this was taken, is if we go into Street View here, we can actually see that there's an SJVR locomotive right here. So it might still be serviced by the railroad, at least at the time that this photo was taken. You can see SJVR, SJV, San Joaquin Valley, or SJVR even right here. It does still get serviced, or at least did. And one thing I gotta ask, what is it with SJVR locomotives and having graffiti on them? Whenever I watch a video of SJVR Railroad, their locomotives have graffiti on it. What is that all about? I've never seen that in a railroad before. Anyhow, this is the last industry along the Arvin route that still gets serviced. Now, I did watch a YouTube video. Right there is Hex Wine Cellery, or that the HCW industry. That's the winery right there. And I watched a YouTube video of a guy that went through here, and when he showed this railroad crossing, this whole area was nothing but weeds. So if this train line still gets serviced in real life, they don't get that much traffic. Continuing on, here's the railroad crossing we were just at, and there's the wine cellery right there. If we continue on, down here we have a couple more industries left. We have JCL. JCL is JC Loomis, and it requires 6 empty refrigerator cars. Now, I believe that what we're looking at is the industry. The way that I'm figuring this out, unfortunately, there's really not a lot to go on here. As you can see, we have fields here. We have a siding that's right here. And if I look on this in Run8, we do have a siding that is right here and 2 industries. And if we look on Google Earth, we have this industry right here. Which eventually leads to this one, which is here. And then we have this industry right here. Now, whether or not this still gets serviced, it doesn't look like the tracks are in very good condition. So I doubt that this industry still gets serviced in real life. As you can see, I mean, look, the tracks don't even look like they exist. They're basically under dirt, and look at that. I mean, you could pretty much say they don't exist anymore. And of course, no freight cars are on this route, at least what we can see here. Now, the next industry that's on the list is KRA. KRA is Kern Ridge Growers Arvin, and KRA requires 8 empty refrigerator cars at the industry. If we look here, it does look like this industry right here still has the tracks. Right here, I believe, is KRA, and if you take a look here, the tracks do still exist. So, moving on from here, the siding ends. And we get to ERF. Now, ERF is, let's see here, is El Rancho Farms. Now, El Rancho Farms, or ERF, requires 12 empty refrigerator cars on both tracks. Or at least in total, I think. If we look here on Google Earth, the siding comes to an end. And right here, we have ERF. Now, whether or not the industry still gets serviced, maybe, maybe not. As you can see, the tracks are still there. Although this one right here looks like it might be... No, it's still got a rail right there. Whether or not this industry still gets serviced, I'm not entirely sure. Although it looked like it had another track here. So do you notice we have this first track, this middle one. We have a second track right here, which does still exist. And then it looks like we might have a third track, although that doesn't exist anymore. Although, to be fair, if we look at ground level, it might look a lot different. You can see we have a track here. It's overgrown, and it almost doesn't look like it exists anymore. Do you see that right there? And then the track peaks out right here and goes to the end, and it does look very overgrown. So whether or not, I don't believe this industry gets serviced by the railroad anymore. Continuing on from ERF, we have GWM. Now, I believe that GWM is, in fact, the last place that this railroad gets, or at least the last place that trains are allowed to travel on this rail line in real life. GWN is G&W Manufacturing, and GWM requires 10 loaded gondolas here. Now, if we look here, there is a siding for this place right here. And it does, in fact, look like it might be a junkyard. So that might be this. That probably is this. And as you can see, the tracks do still exist. So whether or not it gets serviced, I'm not entirely sure. It looks like there may have been a third siding if you look at this. I'm not too sure what this is right here. But it may have once been serviced. We'll have to see. Let's see if we can actually go on the road. Oh, yes. Look at that. We can go over the railroad crossing. Ooh, this is a very old picture. Look at this picture. Very, very old indeed. 2017, I think. But look at that. Looks like there may have been a third track here. Looks like it ends right here. So this siding probably doesn't exist because look at that. It's not even connected anymore. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like, and you can even see it right here. Look at where the rail ends. So it probably doesn't get serviced anymore. Although if we look here, you could maybe get into the siding here. There's still a switch here. And it looks like there may have been a third track right here, which is not featured in Run 8. Now, moving on past GWM, which I like to point this out, the fact that this isn't a gated crossing. And look at the fact how this sign right here is tilted. It almost looks like it's been here for a while. Next industry is JJK. Now, JJK, excuse me, oops, that's not... JJK is John J. Hovacevic and Sons. Now, this industry, JJK, requires 3 empty refrigerator cars right here. And if we were to look on GoogleEarth, it does look like there was a track for this industry. Whether or not it gets serviced, I doubt. I highly doubt it. And by the way, when I mentioned that I think this was the last place... Oh, look at that, a little more modern picture. There you go, look, you can see the track for that junkyard that was right there does still exist. And the track for this industry right here might still exist, but it's very overgrown and very worn out. Now, when I mentioned that this might be the last place trains are allowed to go, there is a place on the railroad that has a sign on it, like literally smack dab in the middle of the train tracks. And that is the end of the Arvin Creek line. So whether or not any of these industries still get served, I'm not entirely sure. Now, the next industry that we have here is way up there. However, I'd like to point something out. Take a look at this siding here, how it's overgrown. This is the last serviceable, well, excuse me. Let me reiterate. No trains in real life are allowed past this point. If you look on Google Earth here, no trains are allowed past this rail line. And you might say, well, how do you know this? If we go into the street view, there is something very interesting I did find about this rail line. There's a sign smack dab in the middle of the track. If this route still gets serviced, I don't believe trains are not allowed to go past here anymore. So that's something very interesting I found out. And by the way, something really cool is look at these very old railroad crossings. Unfortunately, they do not exist anymore if we go a little further away. They're bye-bye, no longer exist. Yeah, bye-bye, they no longer exist. Although these are very old railroad crossings. Do you notice how the red stripes are slanted? These are actually not allowed to be slanted anymore, if you didn't know. Some cool, interesting facts. So this is the last serviceable place. And whether or not this track still exists, let's take a look. Oops, Mateo doesn't know how to use this. Does not look like the track exists anymore. Now, I suppose if you wanted to be realistic, you could hit F6 on your keyboard and put down a yellow sign and pretend that that's the end of the line. If you actually look here, I believe the sign is yellow. Let's see here. If I go about right here, I think we can see the sign. Yes, you can see that there's the yellow sign sitting in the middle of the train track. So if you wanted to, you could be realistic and pretend that this is actually the end of the line. However, you can service the whole line if you want to, which is the great thing about Run 8. Now, in real life, this is the end of the line. We have a boatload of industries here. HCS. I'm just going to go through all these industries in one go. We have HCS, and oops. HCS is homegrown cold storage, and HCS in-game requires 9 empty refrigerator cars. Next one is ALP, and ALP stands for Allied Potato. Now, ALP requires 2 empty refrigerator cars. Next thing we have here is TPS. TPS is Trino Packing and Cold Storage. And what did I say? Sorry, obviously you can see that I have really bad memory. Hold on. TPS requires 4 empty refrigerator cars. Sorry, Mateo for a second lost his train of thought. So TPS, I'm just going to re-say this again, is Trino Packing and Cold Storage. And Trino Packing and Cold Storage requires 4 empty refrigerator cars. That's according to the depot. You could probably park more here if you wanted to. All right, and now the next industry here that we're going to talk about is WWP. Now, WWP is White Wolf Potato Packers, and White Wolf Potato Packers requires 14 empty refrigerator cars. Next one is DPP. Yes, DPP, and DPP is Diamond Potato Packers. Now, Diamond Potato Packers requires 6 empty refrigerator cars. Final industry on the route is GRP, and GRP, or at least this is the second to last industry on the route. Oh no, we also have APP. GRP is Gold Ribbon Potato Packers, and Gold Ribbon Potato Packers it requires 16 empty refrigerator cars. Last but not least is APP. APP on this route is Arvin Potato Packers, which requires 28 empty refrigerator cars. And now this is the last industry on the route. And if we go to Google Earth, we can notice that this industry does in fact exist in real life. Check it out. Check it out. And the line ends right there. If we look in game, let me just turn off the industry tags for a second. We can in fact see that this is a real industry. Now you can see that a lot of the tracks are overgrown. You can see that, yeah, look at this track, overgrown. This track looks like it's being demolished. Those tracks are overgrown. There's like a track right there that's disappearing. There looks like there might have been a track right here because you can see like the ties. Here there may have been a track that went this way. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it exists anymore. Actually, I think it went this way. A lot of these tracks don't really get service. You can see that they're very overgrown, and obviously they probably don't get serviced anymore. I mean, look at that track. It's got rubble on it. Now, I don't know the last time these industries got serviced. If we look on Google Earth, or at least street level, we can see that there were, in fact, tankers here at some point. I have no idea when this picture was taken. However, there were tankers here. So whenever they placed that yellow sign that's currently sitting right here, I really have no idea. It must have been within the last 5 to 10 years, I'd imagine. So yeah. And last but not least, we have all the industries that are right here. And we have one final track that goes this way. And this is GFA. GFA is Grimway Farms Arvin. Yes, Grimway Farms Arvin requires 4 empty refrigerator cars, 6 loaded box cars, and you can see that there are platforms. So ideally, you would probably put 4 empty refrigerator cars here, and then the box cars here. So I think it said, like, if I click on the depot here, here's the industry, and you can see that they have 4 box cars. Excuse me, these are refrigerator cars. They have 4 refrigerator cars here, and then I think they have 3 there and 3 there. Yeah, 3 box cars at each platform. And if we go along the route here, you can in fact see that there is still a train track here. There looks like there may have been something right here, but it doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't look like there's anything here, so maybe this was at one point an industry. If you look at the way it's set up, this might have been, this looks almost like it would have been a place for tankers. Look at that. Just with these and stuff like that, this may have been a tanker facility at some point. Unfortunately, there's nothing here we can see. I'd imagine that the rail line probably went into here. If you just see the way that this is set up. Oh, look at that. You can see maybe there was at one point a rail line that went through here. It would make sense that this would be the entrance for a rail line. Anyhow, if we continue here, you can see that the track is pretty worn out. It looks like it could use a lot of service. And it goes up to here. and that track doesn't exist anymore, which actually, if we look in game, it doesn't look like it really exists either. However, here is the industry. As you can see, look at that, very overgrown. That track does, I mean, this track right here on the right, I don't even think it exists. Yeah, look at that. This track on the right, so there's only one track left here. Check it out. If we look here, there's actually two left. But here, there's actually only one track left. Ooh, interesting. So this might be the right track then. So if we look in game, I think that this track on the right here doesn't exist anymore. That's very, very interesting indeed. If you just take a look at this, whatever this is, I don't know what that is. There's just a random set of track here that literally goes nowhere. That's very, very interesting. Look at this. So if we go here and we turn around, I don't think I can, unfortunately, I don't think I can go that way. It'd be really nice, but look at that. That track doesn't really exist anymore. Now, whether or not this train line actually continued over that way, I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if the rail line, is that a rail line actually? Is that a railroad track? That looks like it's a railroad track actually. Look at that. Is that right? Ooh, I don't think it's a if it was a railroad track, I don't think it's a railroad track anymore. I'm just saying, look at the way that that's set up. It almost looks like there may have been a rail line here. Now then again, there might be something else. Oh, maybe this is irrigation, maybe? I'm not really entirely sure. Whatever it was, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, it looks like it was a pipeline. Never mind. So if there, yeah, it looks like it was a pipeline. If you look right here, there looks like there was a pipe going through. Whatever it is, if it was a rail line, because you can see how it almost looks like a rail line, right? Obviously, it doesn't exist anymore. But anyways, that is the Arvin and Oak Creek branch line. It is a very fun line to service. I've been playing this quite a bit on my own time. And it's a very, very fun route to run. Very interesting. Requires a lot of skill. Just because it's a different kind of train line, if I'm honest. You know, it's not as big as the mainline freight routes. You're going to have to try to fit a big train into very little, you know, places. You know, you're going to have to try to, you know, bring freight through here and figure out how you're going to do it. You know, because it's not like there's a freight yard here, is there? Right? There's no real freight yards here. I mean, the only freight yard might be this one. But it's not like you can pull a train in and leave through another exit. You can park a train here, but you have to reverse the cars in so you can take the engine away. So it is a very interesting route. I do recommend it. It's $20 on the Run8 website. Very good route. I like it, and I will certainly be showing this in some upcoming Run8 videos. But there we go. Yep. So that was this episode of Run8. If we go this way, you'll notice that we'll get to UP Bakersfield. And I want to say that in real life, the cars that go to the Arvin Creek do get serviced by this freight yard. I might be wrong on that. But yeah. So that was the Arvin Creek route. Very good route. I recommend it. Yes. By the way, before I end the episode, which I'm actually going to take a drink of water real quick. By the way, before I end the episode, I have finally opened up my multiplayer server. If you were here a while ago, I know that I announced that I made a multiplayer server for Run8. Unfortunately, I had to shut it down due to technology problems. However, a couple people on my server have decided to reboot the server and build it, and they are currently developing it. If you would be interested in joining the server, join my Discord. The information for the server is on there. It is open 24 hours. It is ran by Garrison San. So if you have any questions, do feel free to ask him. We do go live on the server very periodically. So if you'd like to join us for that, do join my Discord. All the information for the server is right there, and we'd love to have everybody join us. We do want to build the server, but as of right now, there's just 3 of us, so do feel free to join. Information is on my Discord, and the link to my Discord is in the description below. Anyways, that's going to do it for Run8. Thank you for watching. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. See you later. Peace!